Hi. Um, Welcome to Poon and Po. We're just waiting for Dr. Poon. Just gonna add him right now. Super excited to have our third live of the year. And we're just waiting. Hi. Wait, did I do this? Okay. Come on. So, there we go. Oh, how do I get rid of them? Oh no. Hello. That's awkward. Okay. Come on, Dr. Poon. Matt. I invited you. Why aren't you? Waiting for you. Guys, technical difficulties, so fun. Oh, there he is.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, how are you?
Good. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice. Yes. So nice to finally meet you. I'm so excited to kind of discuss like everything we were talking about via email. So you ready to get started?
Yeah. I've never done.
Awesome.
Sorry if I'm
Oh
learning.
yeah, no problem. You sound great. You look great. So don't worry.
How are you doing?
Good. And as always, this will be posted on our Instagram afterwards. Matt, you'll be invited to be a collaborator as well. So like our viewers and yours will be able to see this at a later time. So yeah, for those of you guys who are joining, I'm Kat. I'm the U.S. Branch Managing Director of People of Happiness. People of Happiness is a apparel brand started in Indonesia, coming to the U.S. to really just explore happiness and kind of pursue mental health awareness in a more digestible manner by having fun, comfy clothes that have deeper meaning behind them. And this is Dr. Matt Poon. He is a second-gen Chinese American from New York. Lots of credentials, Northeastern University, University of Denver, Pittsburgh, and postdoctoral fellowship at University of Pennsylvania. He is a staff psychologist currently at Columbia University, specializing in student health services over there, providing individual and group therapy to the next generation of scientists, medical providers, and public health experts. Is there anything else that you want to add, Dr. Poon?
Nope. I started my prior practice 2 years ago. So
yeah. I actually missed that. And I'm actually personally super excited to conduct this conversation because I am literally at University of South Florida's health building right now.
cool.
I am pursuing a medical degree, so really excited to kind of find that interlace between our identity, mental health, and kind of staying happy. So to get started, I just kind of wanted to ask the broad question. How did you get where you are today?
Yeah. I was one of those kids like growing up that had like no idea what I wanted to do for a living. And I think I had like the privilege of having parents who didn't push me too hard into like one certain direction. I think growing up we're like told that we need to be like doctors or like business people or things like that. And but I feel like I was a bit of like a late bloomer in terms of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I just happened to meet with the school psychologist at my high school my senior year and talked to him for a handful of like sessions or like just a handful of times. And I don't quite remember much of what he said, but I remember the way that he made me feel. And it was at like a really critical point in my life. And so told myself I wanted to help people feel the way that he made me feel. And so I switched all of my like college applications. I was going to go to college as an undecided major. and then I switched to psychology pretty last minute because of him. And then I just kind of went straight through school to now. So it's been a fun journey for sure.
I love that. And I feel like it's really interesting how you say you were undecided growing up because to me personally, high school is still pretty like early to know kind of what you're going to do. I just graduated from undergrad a couple years ago, and I've seen so many people, including myself, go through different majors, kind of figuring out what they're doing. So it's really amazing. But I feel like that route of I want to make others feel how he made me feel is really inspiring. Um,
I
and I
wish,
think that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, I wish more people knew that it's like okay to like not know what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that's
yeah,
the message that we kind of try to show with people of happiness is that like to find your true happiness, not really like it doesn't matter whether it's now or 10 years from now. So I completely agree. Kind of transitioning into that, we are a little bit late, but the month of May was National Mental Health Awareness Month as well as Asian American Pacific Islander Day Month. Um, And so I just wanted to see, like, from your perspective, what do these two, like, these celebrations mean to you?
yeah. I think it's great that you know both Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month and it's like a mouthful, and Mental Health Awareness Month fall in the same month. I think it's good because it kind of encourages us to really think about what our mental health is like and to kind of pay attention to what are some of the specific like challenges, but also some of like the wonderful things of what it's like to be a part of this community too. That yes, there are certain issues and concerns that the AAPI community struggles with and goes through, but there's a lot of also like protective factors and wonderful, beautiful things that come with being part of such a big community too. And so, for me, when I think about mental health, when it comes to the Asian American Pacific Islander community, I think about, Asian Americans make about 7% of the US population. It's about like 24 million people. And so, in that, like, Asian Americans are one of the groups that are least likely to seek out mental health treatment. They're actually 60% less likely to receive mental health treatment compared to non-Hispanic white folks. And so it's really important for us to not only think about our like mental health like once a year in the month of May, but to really think about it as much as we would think about like our physical health, right? Like checking in daily. What are some prevention things that we can do? How do we address it day to day? How do we do our like maintenance and checkups? And how do we make sure we take care of each other too?
That's really true. I feel like everything that we kind of go through, even like now being Pride Month, it's never really just a month, but just kind of bringing awareness to it, being more focused to it is always nice. And especially like overlaps of things like that, because obviously mental health never goes away. Being Asian doesn't go away, and being part of the LGBTQ plus community doesn't go away. So from that, you kind of said you mentioned how there's about 60% of Asian Americans don't seek.
Or likely,
Um,
yep.
okay. And I wanted to see like if you had any advice for those who are considering therapy or considering like seeking help.
hmm Yeah, I would say that if you are like contemplating thinking about mental health therapy, like mental health treatment or looking for therapy, but you're feeling like hesitant to do so, is to really ask yourself, like, am I happy? Right? Am I satisfied with who I am and where I am in my life right now? And have I exhausted all of my resources? Have I tried everything that I could to get myself where I'd like to be? And thinking about therapy as really just an avenue or a tool to help you maybe think of more options, I think is one way to maybe help people get over that hump or that barrier of asking for help or going to therapy.
Being that sometimes it's not easy to ask in Asian culture and many other cultures for that matter. How do you think that may affect like how we may ask or how we even find the resources to ask?
Yeah. So I think part of that is also then like thinking about like the history of like our community in terms of like help seeking too, and like thinking about things like the model minority myth, which for folks that may not know, the model minority myth is essentially this term that was coined during the civil rights movement that was essentially saying that Asian Americans are like well adapted, we are successful, we are quiet and passive, and that you know every other community, marginalized community, should just be like the Asian American community. If they can do it, then you can do it too. So, in a lot of ways, it was used to kind of create division between the Asian American community and other marginalized communities, specifically the Black community. And so it really wasn't, it's not great. And in a lot of ways, too, it's really kind of embedded this message generation to generation for Asian American Pacific Islander folks that essentially like we can't struggle, we have to be successful, that we have to adjust and adapt quickly. And so when we think about years and years and years of being told that you can't struggle, your issues are not that important, and then to believe that, and then to then be pushed away or rejected when we do ask for help, when people or systems then dismiss or minimize our concerns, right? Over time, then we can kind of like internalize that message. And so whenever we do struggle with something, we might find ourselves saying like, oh, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe I'm being dramatic or exaggerating or being too sensitive. And so I think the model minority myth is one of the contributing factors as to why Asian American Pacific Islanders like don't reach out for help or support when they need it, and why their requests for support and help often get dismissed or minimized. I think a really good example of that is actually in the last 2 years with the pandemic and the rise in Asian violence, is that people did not take it seriously. They minimized it, thought it was that we were just exaggerating, or that the news was exaggerating all of it. And I think this is a real life and historical repeat of the model minority myth in play. And so part of that is how do we like dismantle that, right? And think about how do we take our own mental health or help seeking seriously. How do we have people around us believe us when we need help and support us in those ways? And then how do we get systems or structures of power to take us seriously and to really put their money where their mouth is, and funding a lot of resources for our community as well, and for other communities of color and marginalized communities too.
No, I completely agree. I feel like the amount of minority myth definitely kind of puts a weight on first gens, second gens, maybe even third gens. And so kind of changing that narrative is very important, whether it's like changing like generational trauma and like redirecting how you're treating like your children, or even just recognizing, I feel like is a really important step. Based on that, do you think like, is there an ideal push towards something that you see within our community?
I would say this generation of folks have been really using their voice in amazing ways. Just being able to amplify and using social media as a platform and a tool to kind of get their voices heard has really been phenomenal to watch. I really do see a lot of potential and change kind of happening. And that as much as we have been taught to listen to our elders, I think there's a lot of power to also listen to folks that, know what's going on currently in the climate, that we can kind of work together to kind of make some change together.
I like that. I think that's why doing things like this, where we can reach out to other communities, is very important as well. I know that on your Instagram you share a lot of like tips and ways that you can kind of work on your mental health, and we try to incorporate that as well. So I think that's really nice that like no matter where you are in the world, no matter your background, you can still kind of resonate with these things and reaching that goal of being like a better you, but also like being having a better community and like as cliche as it sounds, like world to live in kind of thing.
I love a lot of the designs on your apparel. I think it's like super creative, um, but also like gets the point across too about how important mental health is.
Right. And I think it's really nice because it also still goes back to like those like Asian roots as well. Like maybe not traditionally wise, but like streetwear wise, like I feel like K-pop wasn't really known until maybe a couple years ago. Like seeing BTS like everywhere is kind of cool for me because I don't know, I personally like never really knew what it was until like it became mainstream. But like that becoming mainstream opened so many more doors to the Asian community, and even now with Shang-Chi and like a bunch of other things in the media, I think is really nice. So I don't know if you've ever experienced like that shift as well, growing up in New York.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think certainly there's a lot more representation in media, more than I had ever grown up with. And not only that, but also the kind of like full spectrum of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. I think for the most part, we've been really exposed to more East Asian characters and East Asian actors and stories, and to kind of see more stories and films and media around Southeast Asian, Pacific Islander, South Asian folks. It's been really kind of cool to kind of see the wide spectrum. To remember to like remind folks that like we're not like a monolith. That there's so much diversity under the umbrella too. Has been really nice.
I think that's awesome, especially like just being able to hear so many more different voices with like the change in media. And with that, I did want to ask kind of like since we do have so many people joining us from like different backgrounds and like different parts of the world even, um what do you like what is your advice for those who don't want to be in that stereotype? Because I feel like sometimes it's easy, like you said, listen to your other elders or just go on that like doctor path, or I don't know, stick to being that like nerdy, like good at math kind of like stereotype. Like how do you, or how did you even kind of step out from that norm and stereotype?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think part of it is like two ways. Is that like thinking that like not that we can reclaim stereotypes, right? Like there's nothing wrong with being like the nerdy Asian guy who's good at math, if that's a stereotype, that we can reclaim those and that can kind of really own something like that too. But I would say that one of the best ways to lean into our community is like building those bonds, strengthening those relationships, really getting involved and learning your history about the community, how much we kind of like have done across time, generation after generation, how we've contributed to American culture, um, and really trying to invest some time and energy in understanding where you come from. I think can be really powerful.
I guess on the other hand, have you ever felt like you resented where you came from or like didn't want to be a part of it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of like a byproduct of being kind of like socialized in like a white supremacy culture, right? Is that part of the process is part of the experience is like essentially being told that like it's not okay to be Asian, and trying to uh, in some ways like Americanize or whitewash yourself, right? Um, and I think part of healing from that process is a like forgiving yourself for getting caught up in white supremacy culture, right? That it's just everywhere and it's hard to avoid completely, particularly if growing up in America. But also thinking about how do you want to reinvent yourself? How do you want to reconnect to your heritage and your culture? And you can do that in so many different ways, whether that's, again, like learning your history, connecting with folks within the community, reading books, eating the foods, like amazing foods out there, um, uh, learning about stories from elders or other folks who've experienced, lots of different things in their life. And so I think there's so many ways that we can really just kind of like heal from kind of like the exposures that we've had kind of growing up.
No, I really like that. I think especially being like an Indonesian based brand, sometimes there's so many like not disconnects, like differences with the Asian American side of me versus like the Indonesian side from where my cousin and the rest of our team is. So it's really interesting that you kind of mentioned that because sometimes it is hard feeling like, am I American enough? Am I Indonesian enough? Am I Asian enough? Like all these things and like navigating that. So I think that I definitely try to utilize that as well and hope that others can kind of see the ways that we can kind of truly be ourselves and like be happy with who we are and where we come from and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the best things that we can do is to find people who will accept all those parts of us, right? And really embrace and love all those things. That's when we can really like be at a point where we're like not thinking as much or questioning our like self-worth, but really just being present with the people that really love us and really enjoying that connection.
I agree. So for you, who are those people that you surround yourself with?
I would say I fortunately have a really strong relationship with my family, and so it's one of the reasons why I moved back to New York was to be closer to them again, and to yeah, see them. I have really cultivated like a really strong support system since I've been back in New York. It's been 5 years now, and so it's been great to really yeah, strengthen those relationships and build off of that.
That's awesome. I feel like especially like with the pandemic, like people's kind of like relationship dynamics definitely have changed. Whether like they were stuck in the same house or they were on complete opposite sides of the country. So hearing that you were able to move back to be closer to your family, I think is really nice. And I think that people really like some people actually wish they were in your shoes. Some people could say that they could never kind of thing. So it's really awesome that you're able to really strengthen those relationships.
Thanks.
Of course. And on the opposite side of that, since you do provide like therapy to other individuals, especially those like in very high demand fields, like what, I guess like this is a two-part is like, what would your advice be for those who are entering fields like that, who may be in high stress situations? And then also, how do you take care of yourself listening to all of them and providing them advice, listening to everything? Like, how do you take time for yourself and kind of separate their feelings from yours?
Yeah, I think uh, the first part when I think about like advice to other folks is to really think about like we need to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before we put it on someone else, right? And so we are like completely useless if we are not taking care of ourselves. And so this idea that we have to like give 100% to everybody at all times is not sustainable. And so we need to think about how do we fill our own tanks before we can fill other people's. And so, if that means doing all the self-care things, you know, getting involved in activities that you enjoy. But I also think it's thinking about things like setting boundaries, knowing how much you can take, being able to say no to more than you can handle, and also being connected to people that really care about you, that you don't have to think so much about when you're around them, where relationships feel effortless, are really important kind of ways to be sustainable around your mental health. And for me, I think one of the things that has been helpful for me is to separate the work that I do with my personal life. I am in my own therapy. I have been in therapy before, and so it's helpful for me to kind of separate my own stuff from my clients, and that's been really helpful. But again, also being able to give myself grace and know that I can't be everything to everybody all the time, and being kind of supported and allowing people to take care of me as much as I've been able to take care of them too. And so being in really strong and reciprocal relationships, I think, has been really helpful for me.
I like that. I think that it kind of ties back to kind of everything else that we were talking about like being okay to ask for help, like being okay to like do what makes you happy kind of thing. So I think that's really great. And I think it's, I don't know, like I feel like some people think that doctors and like therapists, they all like always have it together. Like that's why they're in their positions and just like, oh, just knowing that like you need therapy too, you need time for yourself too, I think is really like grounding almost. I don't know, just like you're human just as much as I am.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think a really great example is, we all went through the pandemic together, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they affected some people more than others, but this was something that really affected all of us. And, I myself, had a hard time kind of navigating it too, right? And so,
Right. Yeah.
all,
And it was new for everyone, I think is a good way to think about it as well.
yeah.
Yeah. And also just kind of like out of curiosity, because we did talk to Mindy a couple of weeks ago, who is also a therapist, but specialized in family and other like other individuals. What do you think is important to like kind of look for in a therapist if you are to start that journey like for the first time?
Yeah, I would say part of it is thinking about like when I think about finding a therapist, I would say most of the time it's initially dictated by finances and time. Folks that accept health insurance or folks that are able to provide like a sliding scale, I think is really helpful. And then thinking about whether or not you're willing to commit to a weekly treatment or a every other week treatment, depending on that. And so once you kind of figure out those kind of like key parts, then everything else kind of feels like a dating process, right? You're kind of talking to different folks, you're trying to get a sense of whether or not they kind of get you, or kind of get a sense of understanding what you're going through. Um, and so really it's kind of thinking about like, how did this person make you feel? Did they make you feel heard? Do you feel like you're going to have to like explain lots of things throughout your treatment? Or do you feel like they kind of like, we both speak the same language? I think trusting your gut and trusting your instincts around how this person makes you feel is going to really be helpful in dictating whether or not it's a good match or not.
I think that's very valid. And I think one thing that I didn't think about when I first embarked on that journey was that it was okay to talk to multiple therapists.
Oh,
And
for
it was
sure.
okay, yeah. And it was like okay to think about. I wish that I personally knew like I could like reflect on how they made me feel. Because I think that sometimes we go in, we're expecting like a cry sesh, or we're expecting like all of our problems to be fixed. And I don't know if like you would say like go with low expectations, but like I think just like knowing that sometimes what you need isn't what you wanted
Hmm.
is also kind of important, like going in and going out of sessions.
Yeah, and I would also say it's okay to turn down a therapist or to let a therapist know that, like you went with somebody else or that you didn't think it was the right fit. Because at the end of the day, I think therapists, I would hope so, that all therapists want folks to be meeting and working with someone that gets them and understands them and wants to help them. And so if someone tells me that they've found someone else they want to work with, I think that's amazing. I'd rather you be connected with somebody than
I
work
like
with
that. Yeah.
like that and not the right fit for you.
Right, right. And I think that's why it's really amazing that we've gotten to like talk with both you and Mindy, who are both therapists, literally on opposite sides, New York and California, and like to even like having that same like commonality of like being Asian American and kind of coming together with Poe, but like providing like different styles and like discussing different topics and things, because like she's a yoga teacher, but like you're not going to be making your like clients like do like a tree pose in the middle kind of thing.
They could if they wanted.
um I love that. Yeah, no, that's really amazing. I think that's really nice to know that there are so many options and that we don't really have to just kind of struggle by ourselves. We don't have to be in like these states by ourselves. We can actually do something to move forward.
Yeah. And I think treatment is much more accessible now. I think some of these apps really were great, kind of like starting points. And I think now that things are virtual now, it's been really helpful for folks to find treatment to be a little bit more accessible.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think that's something that we also discussed about. I think BetterHelp was one of them, or even just like following and like finding people that kind of resonate with you, that have like similar identities with you, and like how they're navigating through life, I think is another way to not actually find therapy, but just have like more positive and encouraging vibes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm encouraged to know that I think people are feeling a little bit more confident around
Right.
mental health, making it less stigmatized and like
Yes.
help.
Yeah. Yes. And that's our goal. It's definitely to just kind of like lessen that taboo and lessen this and like address the stigmas and bring awareness to them. And so, as we're wrapping up, I did want to just say, if anyone has any questions, feel free to comment them now. If you have any questions, concerns, you can also find Matt on Instagram at Dr. Matt Poon. He has amazing stuff, like I said, and it's really nice. It's also personally, it's really nice to find a male Asian American in a field of like helping. I don't know if like you've ever heard that, but I think just like representation to me is always so important. And especially like with Asian American like men, like kind of told like you can't cry, you can't have feelings. I think that that's amazing, and being able to identify that and know that there are humans out there helping individuals with that is absolutely great.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. It's been really great to.
Awesome. And just to wrap up, if we don't have any questions, I don't think I see any in here. But I always like to end with, what makes you happy? How do you find happiness?
I would say I am most happy. I would say my happiness is a byproduct of when I feel most calm, when I'm not thinking so much, and when I'm most grounded and like it's really spending time with the people where, yeah, that I don't have to think around. Um, and yeah, for me, happiness is spending time with my family, seeing like my niece and my nephews, or close friends, or support systems, home cooked meals, being outside, playing volleyball. Like, I think some of those things are, I think, what brings the most joy to
I
me.
love that. And I think it's amazing how like you have different activities, but they all kind of center around like those who are close to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. I hope that those who are joining us today really have those people with them, or will find those people who can bring them like that calmness, that happiness, that almost safeness being around them.
How about you?
I think honestly, like very similar now that I'm thinking. I think like thinking about like love languages, mine has always been quality time. So for me, it's a lot of like exploring things, being able to like meet new people and kind of talk with those that are close to me. I think I'm always trying to build relationships, but like one thing that I do want to work on is strengthening the ones that I have. So spending time at home, I'm learning to be happier with that.
Mhm.
Um, Spending time with my partner and friends, I think, has been always really good, experiencing new things. But honestly, I wasn't expecting the question to turn on me. Normally, I thought I was asking the questions here, so kind of made me think. You would think, being in this position, I would have had it figured out by now, but honestly, it's always learning. It's something new every day. Sometimes happiness is like food for me. I had watermelon. They're in season right now. They're like, I think that gives me a lot of happiness.
I think it's
Um,
amazing that you're in school and like also, running this business too, and it's a lot, and for you to find like time to just fill your tank and be and get connected is amazing.
yeah,
You
honestly,
need
this
it.
is my
You need it.
happiness. Yeah, mentioning it, I think this is my happiness. Just being able to talk with you, meet new people, having an amazing intern like Issa who really just has those passions and drive that I have. Like, it's truly amazing. I can't wait to see what happens and what's to come. I'm also going to be going to New York soon, so if you have any recommendations, please send them my way.
100%.
But thank you again so much for your time today. I'm so excited to see what else you do in this community and within your career. Like I said, those who are following us, if you guys want to follow Matt, his name is at Dr. Matt Poon. Do you have any other things that you want to share with our audience?
Nope. I think the best way to stay connected is Instagram. So feel free.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely give him a follow. He's great. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.